Hi, and welcome to The Perfect Show. I'm your host, Scott. I'm what you might call a perfection prospector, sifting through life looking for little things or experiences that could be considered perfect. Join me each episode as I examine one topic that I'm presenting as a little nugget of perfection. I was never a really big video game guy, but there was a point in my life when I was living in Japan where video games were the core of a perfect experience for me. When I say I wasn't a big video game guy, I mean specifically the mainstream video game path that everyone my age seemed to have. I never had any of the Nintendo consoles, NES, Super Nintendo, N64, GameCube, Wii, none of those. I did have an old working Atari from a cousin's garage sale with a ton of games, and a Sega Genesis, but with only 3 games ever. I've had a PlayStation once. I think it was a PlayStation 1 and an early Xbox, but I didn't own either one for longer than a couple weeks. Those are separate stories, though. If I was going to go about playing a game now, I'd probably rather play a board game with people in person. If I'm going to play a game on my phone, it's probably an app version of a board game, like Risk or Mahjong. I'm pretty basic. Now, I do have a computer that I will download and play games on, along with all the other computer duties that I have it do, but that's a relatively recent, only since the start of COVID thing. So yeah, I'm maybe not the typical video game guy. In fact, when I'm playing games now online and get frustrated, you can frequently hear me saying stuff like, I hate video games, and making plans to cut them out of my life. Basically, my ability to handle all just the normal stuff about video games is on the level of a 10-year-old or younger because I never really got used to dealing with it as a kid. I mean, that's my theory. Maybe I'm just a big baby man when it comes to video games, but hopefully the first thing. All right, geography time. After college, I moved to Japan, to Kita, Kyushu, a city of about 1 million people in Fukuoka Prefecture, on the island of Kyushu. So Kyushu is the southernmost of the 4 main islands in Japan. Hokkaido is the northernmost island. Below it is Honshu, the biggest and most central island of Japan. That's where Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto all are. Now, Honshu is kind of an elongated island. It stretches pretty far north and south, but off its southeast side is the island of Shikoku, and down south of Honshu is Kyushu. Kita Kyushu, the city I first lived in, is on the northern end of Kyushu. The Kita in Kita Kyushu is north, or North Kyushu. So it's just on the other side of the water from the southernmost tip of the main island, Honshu. In fact, and I know this from personal experience, if you are going home on the train late at night and fall asleep, you just might wind up missing your stop going under the water between the islands and being awakened by a nice Japanese train conductor at Shimonoseki Station on Honshu, then needing to make your way back down to Kyushu. The winter and spring were very mild in Kyushu, but in the summer the weather got hot. I was working in the public schools, and in Japanese public school there is a summer break, but it's not as long as the traditional break for U.S. schools. It happens later in the summer, and it's treated more like a mid-year break, how we do winter break, because the Japanese school year starts in April and ends in March. Once it really heated up, I was often in sweltering, unair-conditioned classrooms during the hottest hours of the afternoon. I call the classroom sweltering like any of the other rooms were any different. They weren't. The heat was pervasive. I was really sweating those first few weeks. I remember being puzzled why no one else looked like they were having a hard time. And then a few weeks or so into being in that heat all day, every day, my body sort of adjusted. I stopped sweating everywhere all the time and was pretty much normal like everyone else. Kita Kyushu is also where I learned about the 5th season of the year. Like I said, Kyushu is down south in Japan and much farther south than anywhere I had grown up or lived in to that point. Latitude-wise, it's about on the same level as LA, but it's an island environment, so that means, as the locals would explain to me, that there were 5 seasons there, not 4. Fall goes into winter, which goes next into spring and then summer. That's all the same. But between summer and fall, in Kyushu anyway, that's when it was Tsuyu. the rainy season. It stayed as hot as summer, but added a heaping helping of humidity for good measure, setting the stage perfectly for the occasional typhoon that would come through. I never had school off for a snow day in Kyushu, but we had multiple days off for typhoons. What was new to me was how the weather didn't really change the heat. Where I grew up in Kansas, it would get oppressively humid, but then after a rain, the air would clear out and feel lighter for a bit. In Kyushu, during the rainy season, it would be at maximum humidity, downpour rain for like an hour, and still be exactly as humid afterward. And it would usually rain downpours like that a few times a day, every day. Stepping from air conditioning outside during Tsuyu felt like hitting a wall. The difference was that noticeable. My first rainy season in Kyushu, I was living in an apartment with a roommate, and the place was fine, but we didn't have air conditioning. I was alternating weeks teaching at 2 different public schools, and neither one of them had air conditioning either. I rode to work and then back home on my basic mamachari Japanese bicycle. Again, no air conditioning. And this was pretty much my regular weekday pattern. In the evening, it wasn't so bad, but during the heat of the day, it got to be 40 to 45 degrees Celsius, which is 104 to 113 degrees Fahrenheit, and practically everywhere you went was sweltering. My brain started making a mental map of the places along my routes where you could get free AC, even just for a quick walkthrough, much like the mental map I had made back when I first arrived to the places in the city where you could find a Western toilet if you needed one, as opposed to the traditional Japanese toilet. Basically, information that could come in very handy for either myself or to someone else in their time of need. In fact, the main places where we did get access to free air conditioning were retail establishments. Some restaurants, big department stores, smaller ones were hit or miss, but it would mainly be places where you had to pay to be there in some form or another. Kokura Eki, the train station closest to where I lived, had a shopping center with a number of nice stores and AC, but they were pretty well tended by clerks who, for some reason, seemed to be more interested in helping you shop than just giving you space to cool off and avoid melting completely. Convenience stores were often well air-conditioned, but you couldn't stay in one of those for too long without attracting even more attention than I already did as a non-Japanese person. Though I did try. I got pretty good at the whole pick the thing up and turn it around and be like, oh, what's this item? Let me examine it very slowly. Ingredients, you say? Let me see what those are. Oh, a magazine rack. Better make sure I look through every option on there. Yeah. Sometimes when you're hot, you gotta do what you gotta do. Near the station, though, just across a huge pedestrian plaza, was a mall called I'm. Like the contraction for I am. I'm. That's the name of the mall. That's Japan for you. But it was a really nice spot for shopping and eating that had recently been built. And there was a beautiful courtyard with an open central area inside of the building where you could even look down over all the floors. So this would have been a great spot to hang out and soak up some artificially cooled air, except for one small thing. The rumor I heard was that it was built on the site of an old Shinto burial ground and that the mall was cursed because of that. Now, I do not believe in curses, but if enough of your Japanese and non-Japanese friends decide that they do, you end up having to look for a different spot anyway. So the train station was out, the cursed mall was out, and this led to my friends and I exploring a bit, and on the other side of the pedestrian plaza, we found a towering building that was a little rundown, but filled to the brim with different small shops and random businesses, crammed into every level, accessible through one tiny elevator and presumably a set of stairs that I never saw. The stores and the levels had no real rhyme or reason, just businesses that could survive and attract clients to a beat-up building next to several fancier and more modern ones. A small bookstore, a little cafe, a collectibles store. But there, on one of the levels, sat the place that would become our air conditioning lifeline. Our go-to cool-off and wind-down spot. The 10-yen arcade. Japan has tons of arcades. Like, imagine a place with a lot of arcades. Now double that, or maybe triple it, but yeah, a lot. Here's where my lack of familiarity with video games kicks into high gear, so please forgive any terminology blunders I make here, but a big arcade in Japan would have tons of cabinet games with regular joysticks, dozens of different games where instead of joysticks you use a guitar or a dance pad or a drum set, or a sushi table with a giant plastic cleaver. Yeah, that is one I saw once. Also, it would have tons of UFO catcher games, which is the Japanese name for the claw machines, where you position your grabber claw and try and drop it down and grab a prize with it. Because there are so many arcades, there are homes for tons of video game franchises and several generations of the really popular games. Games numbered one higher than the last one, with a sign on them hyping what's new in this version. And it seemed like there were new ones of those replacing old ones nearly every time I turned around. What this also creates is a whole ecosystem of places where the games go after they're no longer the latest and greatest version on the block. Like a Plinko ball falling down and bouncing on pegs, a game machine in Japan will hit several levels before it gets all the way to the bottom. They may move around their original arcade a bit, from being in front and center at first to maybe back in a corner later, but whether they're updated with a newer version of themselves or something shinier takes their place, eventually they leave the top shelf arcade. Mid-level arcades will snap up most of these, and then some might go to the entryways of Daiei grocery stores or the parking lot of a Don Quixote variety store. Like I said, there are lots of places for a video game machine in Japan to land on its way down to the bottom. One of the last stops they hit before they are shipped out of the country is the 10 yen arcade, and this is exactly the place I found in that stack of random shops, complete with its own big, beautiful, steadily chugging air conditioner. It's called the 10 yen arcade for the obvious reason: the games inside all cost 10 yen to play. So right now the exchange rate is 115 yen to the US dollar, so 10 yen would be roughly 9 cents. In a new arcade, the games would cost more like 100 to 200 yen per play, so 10 yen to me felt like nothing. If you haven't handled yen before, there are different denominations of bills, but the smallest bill is the 1,000 yen note, so about the $10 bill. Everything under that is handled only in coins, which come in 1, 5, 10, 50, 100, and 500 yen varieties. The Juin Dama, or 10 yen coin, is the second largest coin after the 500 and the only one with its unique bronze color. They had change machines at the arcade that spit out 10 yen coins, but Japan is also a way more cash-based society than the US, and without a 25 yen coin in the currency mix, I actually wound up getting 10 yen coins as change a lot. So after that first time, I usually just saved up my change and brought the 10 yen coins with me to the arcade. Maybe this is a good place to jump out and say, as I've been working on the next chunk of episodes, I'm refining the theme of this show. And instead of just telling stories about these perfect things or experiences, I'm going to see if there's a way to recreate them, either for myself, like in the Tiny Tents episode, or for others, like in the Perfect Road episode. And then also after I run out of my experiences to share, I want to see how it goes replicating other people's nuggets of perfection too. As I was looking for ways to recreate this perfect experience, I ran across a 5-cent arcade named the Oh Wow Nickel Arcade in Fresno, California. And I was going to be in Fresno, actually, so I stopped in for a visit when I was down that way a few months back.
I'm going to clip my microphone on here. I'm wearing a mask, though, so it's a little weird. All right, let's do this. Get 100 nickels. There it comes. Oh my god.
Games for only a nickel. 5 cents. I mean, by those numbers, I may have even found a place that was twice as perfect as the 10 yen arcade in Japan.
Oh my god. Oh, I'm dropping. Nickels, nickels. Alright, seems to be done now. Whew. Pick up the ones that I dropped. Hand sanitizer here, maybe?
Okay, sure, some games cost 2 or 3 nickels, but I wouldn't really know what was up unless I checked this place out.
Here's a punching thing. Takes 3 nickels. Okay, that's it. Yeah, let's try the first one. Here we go. 1 point. 2. Alright, 3. Started up.
Is that all the monthly you got?
Wow. Oh, 898's the high. I got 522. I'm pretty weak. All right, let's see what else we can do. All right, old school games, fighting games. That's what I'm looking for. All right, Marvel vs. Capcom takes 2 nickels, 10 cents. Perfect. Try the right side, maybe. Yeah. There we go. See how this goes. First off. What?
I wandered around with my styrofoam cup of nickels, checking out all the games, playing anything that looked fun or interesting, but being by myself meant no one to talk to, so
Oh no, oh no.
I wound up with long stretches like this one of me just playing a game.
All right, well, there it goes.
And also much shorter stretches like this one.
Galaga, it's fun. 1 nickel. I haven't really played Galaga much. I'm bad. And I'm dead. Alright, well, I'm not good at Galaga.
I cut it way down for the show, but I was there for about an hour on that $5 and played a lot of games.
This Pac-Man, solid. Donkey Kong, heck yeah. Oh, Hungry Hungry Hippos. Dance Dance Revolution. Oh no, not that. Just a similar. Interesting. Daytona USA. Daytona USA. Cruisin' World. Yeah, I'll play that for 2 nickels. Absolutely. Alright. Sitting in the seat. 1. There it is. Alright. Oh. Let's cruise Japan, right? We gotta go Japan. Automatic.
Most of the games were old, not all were good, a few didn't even work, but this is a place that is trying to blow you away with quantity, not quality.
There we go. This is a loud game, man.
Ready, set, go!
And enough were up and running to keep me playing and entertained for an hour.
You kidding me? I come second. Alright, fine. Done with that. Woo. Ooh, what else is there? Aliens game. Skee ball machine. A shooting basketball game that's out of order. Little kid stuff. Well, that's it. Let's go. All right. Well, that's oh wow. Actually, better than I thought it was going to be. You know, that's fine. It's not really what I was. Whoa. Not really what I was looking for, but then again, I didn't really think it was going to be. And yeah. Not bad.
I went during a cooler part of the year, so I wasn't really testing any air conditioning component of this experience. The games were older, how you'd expect, a lot of classic arcade games and others that seemed like leftovers that ended up there somehow, but it was nice and I had a good time. I wouldn't, however, call it perfect. Even though it was super cheap video gaming, it lacked some major pieces of that 10 yen arcade experience in Kyushu, like being there by myself. And I thought there must be better ideas for recreating that experience than this. But back to the 10-yen arcade. The space was cramped, but there were no clerks caring whether you were actively playing or not, only open doors and amazingly artificially chilled air. It was just the place I had been searching to hide in when the days got their hottest. I put out the word to my roommate and 2 of our other friends, and we decided to meet up there on a future afternoon after teaching. Meanwhile, I soaked up all the cool air I could while I perused the games that they had. I figured we'd mainly be playing fighting games like Street Fighter because that was practically the only thing I had experience with, and playing them the same way I did back home too, which meant mostly button mashing and crossing your fingers. But when we actually got together and started hitting up the machines, 2 games far and away outpaced all the others in terms of getting the majority of both our time and our dimes. Our Juen Damas and our Tamas. Nope. This is where I learned about Mobile Suit Gundam, or Kidosenshi Gundam, which is part of the people in giant robots fighting other people in giant robots genre. Gundam was everywhere in Japan, on the toy shelves, in the magazine racks, in TV, movies, and apparently in video games. Off to one side in the 10-yen arcade, over in a little cove behind the based array of air conditioners, were 8 machines connected to each other with built-in stools to sit on. It was the Gundam arcade game. It was amazing. You chose your Gundam robot, picked your special primary and backup weapons, and then you were dropped into a 3D city environment and tasked with finding and blowing up the other team of Gundam robots. Since there were 4 people in our group, we could frequently play as a full squad. That seems like such a weirdly intense term for friends playing a game, but whatever. And then we'd often play against another squad of 4, usually Japanese junior high or high school students in the after-school versions of their uniforms, which meant maybe a missing tie or rolled-up sleeves, earrings or spiked hair that wouldn't have flown in the classroom. And they were also there in the afternoon doing exactly the same thing we were, avoiding the heat. The 4 of us in my group were myself, my roommate Trell from Atlanta, Ken from Alaska, and Cesar from Mexico City. We all worked for the same education company and were all English teachers at junior high and high schools in the city, so we got along with our opponents pretty naturally. We also got completely mollywopped by them at first, but at only 10 yen a play, and since we could be posted up there for hours at a time, we slowly got better at the game, as well as getting better at friendly and not so friendly trash talk in Japanese. Now let me break away from the 10-yen arcade again for a moment and tell you that there were lots of other arcades I would go to with my friends. Like I said, there were many levels of arcade in the Japanese arcade ecosystem to accommodate each phase of the game's life. Another level of arcade, well, arcade and then some, was JJ Club. JJ Club was a place where you got a wristband going in and got it scanned on the way out, and then you paid for all the time that you were inside. I think it was 100 yen per 15 minutes, but then everything inside, all the games and activities, were free. The inside of JJ Club, which was a franchise that had a ton of locations across Japan, the inside of each one was slightly different. I don't remember JJ Clubs for the video games so much. I mean, they had the usual assortment and a couple of odd ones sometimes. Okay, I do remember playing a skiing game where you race the person next to you down a virtual mountain, but you're standing on these like moving platforms that look kind of like chopped off skis. But I think of JJ Club more for the other activities inside, like pool tables, an indoor volleyball court, some small basketball courts, a rock climbing wall at one, and then there was an entire floor of books to read, ping pong tables and a soda fountain / slushy machine. When I moved up to Hokkaido later on, there were still JJ Clubs that I went to, but I also started seeing a place called Round 1 popping up in those same cities, and they were usually in larger spaces, like I think often closed down shopping centers. Round 1 had pretty much everything I described about JJ Club, along with roller skating, fishing where you could catch actual fish, theoretically. I never did that one because I couldn't imagine what I would do carrying a fish in a bag or whatever for the rest of my time. But you could do it. You could also do curling, ride a mechanical bull, batting cages. There was a mini golf course, mini motorcycles that you would ride around the roller skating rink when they shut it down specifically for the mini motorcycles every few hours. It was unbelievable. I mean, obviously having someone else there to play with you is huge to the experience. I never went to a JJ Club or a Round 1 alone. There were always other people with me. Same with the 10 yen arcade. That was one thing I didn't get at the Nickel Arcade in Fresno. So I called up my friend Drew.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Drew.
There's an arcade called High Scores in Alameda, California, and you pay to get in and then stay for however much time you bought, and inside all the arcade games are free, like how JJ Club in Japan was. This place was only arcade games, but that's perfect because that's all I was really looking for.
Thanks for doing this with me. I was figuring we'd just go in and play some video games, old school style, and just have a good time. That's really it. It's going to be easy. So,
Man,
all right?
I haven't
Awesome.
been to an arcade in years. This is really nice for me, man.
How you doing today?
Doing all
Good.
right. Wanted to get 2 one-hour tickets to the
Sure thing.
arcade.
So guys, most of the machines here are going to start up automatically if you just hit the 1 or 2 player start buttons.
Okay.
You see a yellow button down on the coin door, you just want to press that first to add a credit, and then you can hit the start button. We've got
Perfect.
several machines, like Burger Time over here, Zelda, there's a couple other ones in there that are multi-cage, so they play a whole bunch of different games on them. Not just arcade games, we got console, NES, Super NES, Sega Genesis.
Sweet.
So if you're looking for a game in particular, just let me know, okay?
Okay.
Thanks.
Sounds good.
Go
Thanks.
ahead.
Yeah. All right. So.
This is actually my first time meeting Drew in person. I was a little nervous. We had connected early on during the pandemic in a text thread with a mutual friend and had played computer games together online, but this was our first time seeing each other in real life.
You want to just take a look around?
Yeah?
Oh, shoot. I didn't know there was a Super Smash Bros. Arcade.
Whoa.
Okay, I'll play that a bunch.
yeah.
What is this? Pac-Man Battle Royale? Alright. You a Pac-Man man?
I am.
Just like at the Nickel Arcade, we bounced around and hit up any game that caught our attention.
Well, we can alternate picking stuff if you see stuff you wanna go for. Or whatever.
Let's try a game you want to try.
Alright, the straight up old Donkey Kong.
I've never played this.
Old Donkey Kong? Let's play it.
Is it 2-player?
Yeah. We take turns though.
Okay.
You like switch in and out. There's only one button, jump. You just have to avoid.
Really?
So Donkey Kong's rude. He takes our girlfriend up to the top of this thing and then he throws barrels at us. And we have to jump over them. There's a place to get a hammer if you get up high enough, but I usually die. before
So
that.
Donkey Kong's a bad guy.
Donkey Kong's a total bad guy. Absolutely.
Wow.
I'll go up here. Oh, I need to get this hammer.
We played a ton of games. Both of us got to introduce the other to some games, and we had a great time. It was way more fun playing games with Drew than it was going solo before. I edited out a lot of the audio that was just us playing games, but we stayed there a while.
All right. I don't know how much time we got. You want to try any stuff in here? What's going on here? Oh, I see. You want to try the shooting one?
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
We're shooting aliens? Or wait, are we doing maximum force or Area 51? I don't have any either way.
Maybe Area
We
51.
gotta kill those aliens. Oh no. Beginning?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude, I have played this game.
Have you?
I have played this game,
Oh my
dude.
gosh.
I have not seen this in more than a decade.
It turns out that even though I'm not good at video games,
Don't shoot those.
I'm also not good at being conversational and present while I'm video gaming either, so I'd probably be a terrible Twitch streamer.
What about the helicopter? Oh wow, this one has like a bunch.
Oh, what's this one?
It's like, I think this is the emulator he was talking about where it has a bunch of different. Does it have my favorite? No way. Wait a minute, how do I, it's alphabetized, right? D, F, D, B. No, okay. Ultimately, I was looking for Bomberman. If I could find it on this, that would be like my holy grail.
Yeah.
Nope, okay, cool.
So, remember how I said there were 2 games that we really got into at the 10-yen arcade? Well, one was Gundam, but the other one was just a single unassuming cabinet directly diagonal to the wall of air conditioning, holding a simple 4-player game called Bomberman. I guess Bomberman is a Nintendo staple, but back to me not being a video game kid, this was my introduction to the game. If you're not familiar with it either, Bomberman is a game where players start off in different corners of a square map, and there are blocks separating them from each other. When the timer starts, you run around and drop bombs near the blocks to blow them up, collect any power-ups inside, and make your way toward the middle of the map and the other players. Using power-ups over the course of the round, each player can get more bombs, make their bombs affect a larger area when they explode, get the ability to move faster, all sorts of fun things. The rules are simple, though. If you get hit by a bomb blast, even your own, you're out, and you play until there's only one player remaining. The end of the round becomes a fast-paced, chaotic frenzy of trapping each other and escaping giant bomb blasts. Bomberman might be the most fun I've had playing a video game in my life. If Gundam was where we went to trash talk with Japanese players, then Bomberman was where we went to trash talk with each other. The rounds were only 2 minutes, but to win the match, you had to get 3 victories. That meant if each of us put in 10 yen and we all got 2 wins apiece before someone got a third, we were playing 9 games, so like about 20 minutes on that 10 yen. And we were all getting better at roughly the same rate, so no one really dominated our match. And an even spread of wins like that happened pretty frequently. 30 cents an hour for incredible fun and amazing air conditioning in the heart of Kokura, that's a pretty unbeatable deal. A perfect place to hide from the heat.
Neo Geo. Press it. Oh, this plays 100 plus games? Hold on.
Really?
For 10 seconds to see the menu.
Hey! I played this game.
Hold on a second. I get to see the menu if I hold this.
Oh, there's like a menu and stuff?
I don't know, that's what it says.
Neo Geo Multi-Video System. NSK.
Metal Slug, Bomber. Are you kidding me?
Let's do it.
Bomberman?
Take
Hold
out
on a second.
Bomberman.
I want to see what else is here. Dude, if Bomberman's on here, that's like the holy grail for me. Okay, Robo. Dude, that's crazy. I can't believe. I looked it up on an arcade place looking for Bomberman arcades, and I couldn't find one. Okay, Bomberman number 10. That's it. Oh my gosh. It's probably old school Bomberman, but that's okay. It's a pretty old game, dude. Oh, this looks old.
It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, it is. Well, the core of Bomberman is so simple. You're just dropping bombs and walking away from them, you know? Start. Battle, right?
That's in Spanish.
This is weird. Oh, it is in
Si
Spanish.
juega solo con su...
So, do you start? This is older than the version I played.
Choose the place in which what you want to play.
Are you
With
in?
who do you want
Are
to
you
play?
in? Oh, you can move too. Okay.
I'm gonna
I'll just be
try...
regular Bomberman.
Who's this guy?
Alright, so I think the same thing
Whoa.
goes. We drop bombs.
Dude, look at me, I'm camouflaged.
The flames make
This
you
is
get
sick,
longer,
dude.
the skates make you go faster. This is wild. What's with the arrows? on
Yeah,
the
it's
ground?
really old school. It's nice. Oh, flame.
Now, the version I found here was an older generation of Bomberman and entirely in Spanish that was on an emulator with a ton of games that had been placed into a cabinet, but this Bomberman didn't really remind me of the one I played back in Japan. To be honest, it was a bit janky of a version to begin with, and I'll admit Bomberman also lacks a bunch when there are only 2 players instead of 4.
Dead!
This game is great, man.
Dude, it's so fun.
I know. I was just crowing about having 2 players for these games, but like with a lot of games, board games and video games alike, changing the number of people playing can really change the dynamic of the game. Game developers try to compensate for this with computer players, but even the best AI player falls short compared to playing with real people.
All right, I think maybe we should skedaddle. We've hit our numbers.
Skedaddle?
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah.
We stayed a little longer. That was fun, dude.
It was, man.
I hit everything kind of wanted to hit. I can't believe I found a Bomberman. That was ridiculous. And I lost it over and over again. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get some. You too. Thank you.
All right. Nice.
High Scores was really fun. I had a great time playing games with Drew, but at the same time, it was still missing some central aspect of that 10-yen arcade that I was trying to recreate. A dynamic that's just not going to be the same with only 1 or even 2 players. I searched for both Gundam and Bomberman online. I found a version of what looks like it could be the Gundam game I played on Steam, but it's like $70 and I can't totally be sure if it's the right game. Also, Gundam is my second choice anyway. My first choice was always going to be Bomberman, and I happened upon a version of that on Steam as well, called Super Bomberman R Online. It looked pretty much exactly how I remembered the version we used to play, so I downloaded it. It's a free game to play, but I shelled out $10 for the premium version so I could host a private game with people. And then I asked a group of online friends if we could play Bomberman one night. Oh, I found out this game is also on the Nintendo Switch, so you can find it there if you have one of those.
I literally don't have any idea what's going on right now.
Okay.
Like,
It's about to drop us down in separate spots on the map, and you
Fortnite.
put a bomb
Okay.
down by hitting space.
Okay.
Then you run away from your bomb because it's going to blow up. And you do that over and over again to blow up the block and get power-ups, and then also to try and attack each other when we get through all the blocks that are between us. It'll take a little bit of getting used to, but once you get used to it, it'll make a lot of sense, I think.
In shortly, try to blow up the other people, not yourself.
2 of these voices should be familiar, mine and Drew's from earlier in this episode.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Drew.
The other 2 are Shane and Lee. Shane and Lee go way back, and we all play video games together online from time to time.
Can I be green? Is anybody else green?
those up. How do you change your color? Oh, you can change the bomb skin. You can change that. That's dope.
But I mean, yeah, the original was, I think it was an NES game.
Oh, what is this? Oh, look at us.
Oh, this is sick.
And the second Bomberman that I know of, anyway, was Bomberman 64, and at the time it was a Nintendo exclusive.
That
Well, but maybe it had on like Game Boy or PlayStation 1, yeah.
would make you get into Nintendo.
So basically, we're getting resources like in Fortnite.
Yes. We're getting power-ups. We're getting better weapons. We're upgrading our bomb. Oh no! No, run!
Back once again to me not being a video game guy, I didn't start playing computer games online with friends until the pandemic started and everyone was stuck in their houses. But it's been one of the regular things during this that has helped me keep it mostly together most of the time. Or maybe somewhat together some of the time. Whatever.
Who's showing up for that?
Oh no!
Woo! Nice.
After a bit of getting oriented to the game, especially since the controls are so simple, it was really easy for us to have random conversations while we played. The kind of unplanned spitballing discussions that are nothing really, but also are everything. Shane threw out the hypothetical scenario where if you get a room and then you could plunk down 3 arcade machines in it to own and play whenever, what are you picking?
I mean like stand-up machines, like arcade machines.
If I get
Like the
3, this is definitely 1. I think I also might want a Street Fighter game.
Yep, that's on there.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
the
The turtles.
the turtles. I was
one.
gonna say
Yeah.
either the turtles
Yeah.
or I have another
Turtle,
soft spot for
Turtles
that.
might really be out there, yeah.
The 4-player X-Men game where you could be Colossus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
Cyclops.
Nightcrawler. I like
Yeah.
Nightcrawler.
Uh-huh. That game.
We're feeling it. We're all on the same page here.
Shane and I know because we worked in an arcade. Circus.
Oh, dude, that was the best job I ever had. If I could make a third of the money I do now to do that job, I would quit my job right now.
We should do it, Shane. We should go back and work.
I would so do it. That was the. I'm so sad that it's not there anymore.
Oh no. Oh, this poison makes me really slow. Come over here, Drew. Now it's yours. Oh no.
Friend that worked at Chuck E. Cheese,
Oh!
and he says he got kicked in the nuts.
Oh, I got kicked in the nuts, man. Oh yeah. Totally. But it was still worth it. That was the best job ever.
Only one problem, Shane. You get kicked in the nuts.
No, that part sucked. But you just had to guard him. I wore a cup, man.
I think I killed the game. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I started again.
All right, creating room. All right, I think I'm gonna be pink this time.
I'm not holding
I'm gonna
back,
stick with
okay?
green. I'm a green dude.
Scott, good suggestion, man. It's a
Oh.
fun game.
I love this game. I mean, I just played it over and over again.
The 10-yen arcades do still exist, tucked away in larger cities. I did a Google search in Japan just now, and a few popped up here and there. I remember being in Tokyo on a work trip and finding a 10-yen arcade in the basement of a skyscraper one night with a group of friends, but we had to look it up intentionally and search it out even then. So they are findable, just probably a bit off the beaten path.
All right, so here's a couple. If we're gonna expand on games in our personal arcades, I have a couple that I really want,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna go beyond the 3 limit here. I'm gonna say I have a whole room for all the consoles that I want. I want asteroids. I want asteroids, and I want Pac-Man. I want Donkey Kong Jr. Not Donkey Kong, but Donkey Kong Jr.
Why Junior?
You know what? It's because it was there was a pizza joint next to the house that my mother moved into when my parents got divorced. We lived there for like 2.5 years, and that pizza joint was like 2 doors down. And I went there every day to buy a garlic bread pizza for $4, and it was delicious. And they had that game, and I played it waiting for my garlic bread pizza. And so like it's like some of my happiest memories of childhood.
Nice.
And
That's
so
a nice
I won it for
memory,
that
man.
reason.
Cool.
Won it. I remember waiting for my garlic bread pizza for $4 and playing that game over and over, and I loved it. It was great.
I want to
but then
change.
again-
I want to change
Go,
the 3 consoles I would have in my thing. You made me think.
go.
So I would keep Bomberman. I would put in Cruisin', like one of the Cruisin' USA or Cruisin' World, whatever the
Oh my god, I have a story about that.
the driving game. I'll put one
I
of
have
those
a
in,
story about that. Oh my god.
and then I would put in the Taiko no Tatsujin, the Taiko game from Japan, where you're playing the Taiko drum.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
I love
Oh, that's a hard one to beat. You can't say no to that one, can you?
So good.
It's
So satisfying to give that
It
thing a
is.
good
Oh
whack.
god, yeah, it's so good. That's such a great one. There's so much fun to be had with that one. And that's one of those
Taiko
things where
games.
like the in-house peripheral just doesn't make the grade. Like you gotta get the thing in the arcade.
Yeah, you got to get the big old thing.
Yeah, man, that's good stuff.
While researching for this episode, I came across an article on Kotaku.com that said that in one decade from 2006 to 2016, 10,000 arcades closed down in Japan, making the number go from 24,000 to 14,000. It also explained the domino effect of tax raises on the arcades. The owners collectively decided that they had to stick with the one-coin model. For instance, they wouldn't consider going from a 100 yen, which is 1 coin, to a 110 yen game, 2 coins. Or in the 10 yen arcade's case, that would be going from a 10 yen game, which is 1 coin, to an 11 yen game, 2 coins. The arcade owners in the video game industry opted just to absorb the tax and take slimmer margins over and over, and that's not even accounting for inflation. Not to mention, it's a different landscape when everyone has access to a device with a constantly refreshing supply of new games in their house or even in their pocket, when you can connect to friends and strangers through HD video across the globe while you play. Then how long can a house of aging cabinet screens and joysticks really last? A Japan Times article reported that the official number was only 4,022 by 2019, and that number was pre-COVID, which I can't imagine helped the arcade industry there. If things are this on the decline, even in Japan, one of the last holdouts for the video game arcade, they may be on their way to extinction for good, which would be a real shame. Of all the experiences I tried for this episode, playing games online comes the closest to taking me back to that time. Back to playing games for 10 yen a pop at that wonderfully chilly arcade in the height of the sweltering Kyushu summer. Making friends, having relaxed conversations, and the occasional panic attack, laughing fit, or both. And with that, the 10 yen arcade in Japan becomes the next entry into the Perfectorium, the index of perfect things. Don't forget you can find a direct link to the Perfectorium by going to perfectshow.site/perfectorium. You can also find all the credits and links for the music in the show notes or on this episode's webpage. I want to thank Drew, Shane, and Lee for letting me use the audio of us in this episode, and also just for being fun guys to play games with. This episode was recorded in Fresno, Alameda, and Oakland, California, and mixed at Morena Studios in Oakland. Subscribe if you'd like to get every episode, and if you're enjoying these and want to drop The Perfect Show a perfect rating or review, please do. It's the easiest way to support the show. Once again, The Perfect Show site is at perfectshow.site, that's S-I-T-E. Email any comments, music, or other things to perfectshowshow@gmail.com. Connect on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube to the name Perfect Show Show. And remember, if someday, decades from now, you find yourself looking at an exhibit in the Smithsonian learning all about what arcade games were like before they went extinct, and they happen to have a playable version of that 4-player X-Men game, and I happen to be there at the exact same time as you, I call dibs on Colossus. Anyway, until next time, I'm Scott Maupin, and thanks for listening to The Perfect Show.
I can eat 50 eggs.